Good morning and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Samantha. I am a realtor, a homeschooling mom, and a youth pastor. So today, since school has officially started back where we are, I wanted to go over the homeschooling laws in Georgia. So if you are thinking about moving to Georgia and you're a homeschooling family, you'll know exactly what to expect. But first of all, if you haven't subscribed, go and hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you know when I make a new video. So in the state of Georgia, a parent or legal guardian are the ones that can teach a child. You can have a tutor who comes in and it helps you maybe teach what you don't know how to teach or just help oversee the teacher perspective. You and the tutor have to have an equivalent of a high school diploma. So basically, you kind of have to know a little bit of school. You have to file a declaration of intent to homeschool. And this is a paper you just go online to homeschool in Georgia and type in declaration of intent in Georgia. Just do that on Google. Google declaration of intent in Georgia, and it'll bring you right up to the form that you can fill out online. It's your children, their ages, and their grade level, and then you sign it. And that's what you turn, and that you can submit the form online, and it immediately goes to the state to allow the state to know that you are a homeschooling family. You have to do that once a year, every year. And you have to do it before you start schools because you have to put your dates that you homeschool on there. Um, the time requirements are you have to school for 180 days a year and you have to school for at least 4.5 hours a day. Now, this is what I wanted to break down. So, that does not mean that you have to be in book work 4.5 hours a day. If you think about it, children are constantly learning all day, every day. If they're in the kitchen with you cooking, they're learning. If they're doing chores, they're learning. If they're playing a board game, they're learning. So, main thing is this means they don't need to be on necessarily video games or just doing nothing. But even when they're playing outside, they're still learning. So 4.5 hours of learning per day. And I'm looking at my notes, so please forgive me. I don't want to forget anything. Okay, so there are some required subjects in the state of Georgia that they have to have. They have to have reading, language arts, math, science, and social studies. So in the state of Georgia, they have to have all those in order to homeschool. Now, in high school, in order to graduate from high school, you do have to have a certain amount of electives and credits. But when you get to high school, it changes a little bit because you can just Google high school in Georgia and it tells you everything you need to graduate. Kids can graduate from homeschool as early as 16. That is if they get all their high school credits. So that is a benefit of homeschooling. They can graduate early. They don't necessarily have to stay on grade level for every subject. So say your child struggles in math but excels in language arts. So they may be on an 8th grade math and a 5th grade language arts. So you can homeschool them where they are at the time. You can do that all the way up until the 8th grade. Now in ninth grade, they do need to be caught up because you have to take a ninth grade math, a ninth grade language arts, a ninth grade science. But from kindergarten to 8th grade, you can keep them on track. You can do summer school. You can school year round, whatever you need to do to make sure that your child is understanding the requirements. Um, let's see here. So, and also in the state of Georgia, they have to take a state test every 3 years. This has to be, usually parents can do this, but it has to be done through a state testing site, such as, for example, my kids do the ITBS test. That's the same thing I took when I was in school. It's just the test that we like. This necessarily doesn't have to be turned into anywhere. It is done so that you know where your child is on what grade level to help you. But it also helps if, say, your cousin gets mad at you and calls DCFS and says you're not homeschooling your children. You have this proof that you are homeschooling because you've tested within the last 3 years. So that's important to keep a record of. It doesn't have to be turned into the state. It doesn't mean your kid fails. It doesn't mean that you have to send them back to public school, any of that. It just lets you know where they are. Some kids just are not good at taking tests, and that's why we homeschool, because if that's something they struggle with, we don't want to label them with that and make them feel bad for the rest of their life because they're not great at taking tests. That's one thing that we know to focus on to improve with our children. So if you are a homeschooling family and you are thinking of moving to Georgia, Georgia is definitely a more relaxed state in homeschooling. There is a lot of co-op programs you can attend. So, for example, my children, we are part of Wise Eagles, and we meet every 2 weeks on a Friday. We go into a church building, and all the moms meet together, and we teach each other's kids. Like there's another teacher besides me for like biology, another teacher from besides me for like art. And so this is also where we do our state testing app. They're able to do like Christmas parties and meet friends and have that social interaction that sometimes parents are worried about when they pull their kids out of public school. There are plenty of ways to keep your kids social. It's just all up to you as the parent to get it done. So you're thinking about moving to Georgia, it's a great place to homeschool. I would love to talk to you more about it. Leave me a comment, get in touch with me. I hope you have a great day and good luck on your homeschooling year. It's going to be a wonderful year, and you and your kids are going to succeed.